The president-elect heading up to the Capitol right now after the church service at St. Matthew's Cathedral, riding already in the presidential limo this morning, but alone, not with the former president. President-elect Biden, along with his wife, Dr. Jill Biden. Of course, in just over an hour and a half now, he'll face his first big challenge as president, delivering that inaugural address. So I want to bring in one of the few speechwriters who helped write two inaugural addresses, Mike Waldman, who helped write two of President Clinton's inaugural addresses. And Michael, thanks for joining us today. President Biden is going to be speaking to a divided country, a country in crisis. As we've been saying, you've heard people say he's got to echo the second inaugural of Abraham Lincoln, FDR's first inaugural, perhaps parts of what George W. Bush faced in 2001. How do you see the challenge?
Well, George, you're right that this speech is more than a speech. It's kind of a civic ritual, a ritual of the presidency. And he has to find a way to bring people together, as Thomas Jefferson did after the first bitterly contested election when he said we are all Republicans and we are all Federalists. He also has to do what Lincoln did in his first inaugural, which was show some firmness and stand up for the values of democracy. He's giving the speech at the very spot where 2 weeks ago there was an insurrection by supporters of the defeated president. And he needs to pledge in some way action and action now, as FDR did in his first inaugural. There are echoes of these other presidents that President-elect and soon President Biden can tap. We don't always listen to these inaugurals. The ones that are memorable are in times of crisis, and that's when we are really listening.
And we are seeing the president-elect there in the Beast right now, in the traditional presidential car, an armored truck, really, bulletproof, bomb-proof. And of course, that is necessary today. There we see the president-elect get out of the car right there. And Rahm Emanuel, I'm reminded of a story that President Obama tells in his memoir. When he was getting up to face and give his first inaugural, the security threats were high as well. Mm-hmm. He had to have in his breast pocket what he would say in case of an attack.
Yes, what we had intel. The head of the Homeland Security, Chertoff, was telling us that there were going to be 3 Somalians with backpacks, and we had a plan for an alternative site, an alternative speech, and an alternative dress. And I had to when I couldn't tell the speechwriters, so I had to get Axelrod on a hard line. I said, you got to draft this, and we gave it to him. He put it in here. We knew exactly where he was going to go, what he was going to say, and how he was going to address the nation. And you have to have that alternative plan for violence. Well, we had it then at that point. I remember working with when we were talking to Josh Bolten at that point as the chief of staff. We were making all these plans and making sure that President Bush's White House was fully informed of what we were thinking and where we were going at that point.
And President-elect probably has something similar in his pocket right now as he is prepared to walk up those steps. There's Roy Blunt, who is the chair of the Congressional Committee. Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri, Amy Klobuchar, the chair for the Democrats of that committee. They will escort the president-elect into the Capitol. Hard to believe it was just 2 weeks ago that Capitol was under siege. Those steps were overrun by rioters, by domestic terrorists. That was 2 Wednesdays ago. Last Wednesday, the outgoing president impeached. Now the inauguration of the incoming president. Soak that in, an entirely different U.S. Capitol today. President flanked by an honor guard of Capitol Police. President-elect. They were holding off rioters. He'll be escorted inside now before he emerges on the west front for the actual ceremony. Mary Bruce, up there on Capitol Hill, the contrast is so stark.
George, I cannot tell you how astounding it is here to overlook the west front of the Capitol, the exact spot where just 2 weeks ago rioters, violent supporters of President Trump, were scaling the scaffolding that has now been replaced with bunting. It is remarkable also to see so many of those who had backed the president in this effort, like Senator Ted Cruz, who just a moment ago was snapping selfies.